All right, it's Thursday night, and gentlemen, Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com, Casey the Beef Cregan, Sluggo Podcast, Chop and Beef Podcast, Message Board Geniuses. I don't know how you have time to do anything else, Casey, but you do because we're going to see your stats in a little while here on the screen. It's Thursday night, so we're going to talk Clemson baseball. And gentlemen, the roller coaster continues. Last time we talked, the Tigers had been swept by Wake Forest. This time around, you two guys, both of you, predicted Clemson to win the series in Tallahassee, and happy to report back both of you were right. So Clemson went 2-1. I know you guys probably don't hear that often, but you were right. So I'm going to say it over and over. You're right, 2-1. And then Clemson turned around and beat Georgia in a midweek series. I think Georgia's having a similar season to Clemson, or at least the record was similar. But the Tigers are 3-1 since we last talked. JP, first of all, give us your takeaways from the Florida State series last weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I wasn't feeling too good about that prediction after that first game, man. Baumeister just totally shut Florida State down. I mean, shut Clemson down. He was probably the best start of his career, man. But Clemson comes back, wins the next two. And, I go back to what Eric Backett said after the sweep by Wake Forest. Again, he said it twice. He believed it every fiber of his being that this team was close and they were fixing to turn it around. And maybe we're on the brink of seeing that. They go into Athens, get a win there. The bullpen has been phenomenal over the past 3-4 games. What was a weak link. And we'll see if they can keep it up against a pretty good Notre Dame team this weekend coming into Clemson.
Yeah, Beef and I were talking last night, and Notre Dame's 7-8 in the ACC, so they're holding their own. They won one game against Wake, took a series. Of course, I'm losing my train of thought.
I got it later, but they beat Louisville 2 out of 3. They beat Pitt 2 out of 3. So
okay, Beef, your takeaways from last weekend and the Georgia game.
I have a very similar sentiment to JP after Friday night and seeing Baumeister just absolutely look like Rhett Loudon, man. I mean, he was fantastic, and that was not what I saw on paper. That was not what I've seen in one other very brief stint that I watched him. I thought Clemson was going to take Friday. I really did. I knew even with Austin Gordon on the mound and his propensity to give up a couple runs and a long ball or two, I just thought that Friday was going to be the one that Clemson got, and then they just had to get one of the other two. Well, that wasn't the case, especially with the TBA twins going Friday and Saturday, I guess, last week. But, yeah, they looked great on Saturday, and then Caden Grice kind of carried the team on Sunday. It was a really nice weekend down there in Tallahassee. It's always good to win a series down there. I don't care how good or bad Florida State is.
6 1/3 from Grice. You mentioned it. Gave up 2 runs. And hit a Titanic grand slam. It seems like just a few weeks ago we were talking about his struggles, how he seemed to be disengaged from the team, got thrown out the day before he was supposed to start the finale at South Carolina. Was looking at his teammates when he wasn't happy with his teammates. All of a sudden, you look up, he's batting .342 with 8 home runs, leads the team with 28 RBI. 2-1 on the mound, 3.55 ERA, starting on Sundays, or as we like to say now, the third game of the series. So he's really seemed to put it together a little bit, JP. I mean, he is leading this team for sure.
Yeah, and he's really started to turn it on since we got into ACC play. All but 2 of his home runs have come in league play. I think I read today he's got one of the highest batting averages in the league just in conference play. I might be remembering that wrong, but we talked a little bit about it last week. How ever since he got back into the starting rotation, man, his bat has really come alive. Not that he's been batting around 300 all season, but that power, he's found that power stroke, and he like Beef said a minute ago, he's really been kind of one of the guys carrying this team here lately. Not that it's just him, but he is definitely one of the guys pulling his weight right now.
Well, yeah, he's not the only one because Cam Canarella is still batting over 400, 411 with 27 RBI. He's 17-20 in stolen bases. Will Taylor's at 325. And Beef, somebody that JP mentioned a few minutes ago, last week, Billy Amick with a big home run on Wednesday, batting .377.
Yeah, he's been great, right? I mean, it's the riding the hot hand that Eric Bakich seems to be pulling the right strings right now. It's amazing. Amick, a young kid too, that's starting to get comfortable at the plate, and they're finding a role for him, especially playing first base when Grice pitches, or just finding him a DH spot. Or he's just been in the lineup and he's been producing. So how do you take him out?
Seems like they pretty much, Jason, got everything down except maybe right field, right? Don't they interchange some guys out in right field? We've seen Ethan Hall and
Right.
some other guys out there. But otherwise, the lineup seems pretty settled. Of course, when Grice is not pitching, he'd be playing first. But other than that, they've settled down a little bit on the rotate. I mean, in the field.
Yeah, Eric Bakich talked earlier in the season about how he was still looking for the right roles for everybody, and it seems like he's pretty much got that figured out. You know, outside of that right field spot where we see Nathan Hall some, we see Cooper Ingo out there a little bit here lately. But yeah, Will Taylor in left, Cam Canarelli has cemented his spot out there in center, and they have got a very good, infield with Blake Wright, Riley Bertram, and Ben Blackwell. And Caden Grice has been very good defensively over there at first base when he's not pitching. And Amick is fielding admirably when Grice is not playing first. So pretty good. If we're talking strictly defensive, this has been a fairly solid group defensively.
Absolutely. And Beef, you mentioned it earlier, a little bit of change up in the rotation. We're going to get, I've got my days right here. We got a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to get Darden on Friday. He's 2-1 with a 3.81 ERA. Then Austin Gordon shifts over to Saturday this week. Now he's 0-3 with a 5.62, but I think he's been better than that. He's a battler, right? You know what you're going to get. He doesn't walk anybody. He's only got 10 walks. He's given up more home runs than walks, which is kind of unfortunate. But all that to say is he doesn't walk a lot of people, which is kind of unusual for a college pitcher. And Caden Grice on Friday. What do you think of that rotation, Beef, and the change?
I love it. I don't know. Austin Gordon has been kind of a stopgap, and he's been that Friday night guy, but he's not your prototypical Friday night guy. And I think, I'm not saying Ethan Darden is. I just think that he's earned his way to a weekend start, and I think why not throw him out there first? So I think that's a great move by Bakich. I mean, I'm a sunshine pumper, I think, because I think he's made all the right moves, and yet they're 20-14 or whatever the record might be. But I really like it. I love Gordon. Maybe there's a little bit of pressure on Austin Gordon on Friday night, within himself, that he's just putting too much pressure on him. Maybe that Saturday, that second start, hopefully you get that win opening day, that Friday night, and maybe take a little load off. But yeah, he's been solid. And then Grice, you know what you're going to get. And I love the fact that they stretched him out last week too.
Yeah, we were both surprised. I think JP, we were chatting during the game, and you were surprised that Grice went into that seventh inning.
Yeah, I was very surprised he went into that seventh inning, but turns out, it worked. And I was a little surprised to see Ethan Darden as the Friday night starter today. Not that I don't like it, because I do, because I'm with Beef. I think Austin Gordon, it fits that Saturday role better than he does that Friday role. Not to say he's been bad in it. He's been fairly solid. Once he figures out how to be a little bit more consistent, I think he's going to be a really good pitcher. He's got to learn to pitch a little bit better with two strikes. I think he is. He's been the victim of making some two-strike mistakes that end up getting hit out of the ballpark. But once he ends up being a little more consistent, I think Gordon's going to be really solid. I like him in that Saturday spot. Love Grice in that Sunday role. And Ethan Darden has been solid over his last, 2-3 starts, going back to he started against College of Charleston in Columbia. I think that was his first career win. I think he pitched a career high that night, or either had a career high in strikeouts, but he was really good that night for the most part. He has been pretty solid since then. Doesn't get talked about a lot, but he has come on, and when we're talking about a true freshman, he has come on and done some solid work for the Tigers.
Absolutely. Okay, JP, here's a question for you. I don't know if you can answer it or not. What do y'all know about Emmons? We've been talking about him for weeks. It seems like almost back. He's almost ready, maybe this week.
I think I think it's a distinct possibility. You see Ammons this week if they need him. I don't know that the need really ever arose last week where they really needed him. Back had said he was probable, never said he was definitely a full go. Maybe the way the games played out, they just decided to hold off another week. I can't tell you for sure that he'll be back this weekend. They play those kind of things very close to the vest. All I can tell you is he's very close. He's not wearing any kind of brace or wrap on that arm or anything. He just from an outsider's perspective, just looking at him, he kind of looks pretty much ready to go, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw him this weekend. And just to be clear, when he does come back, he's going back into that closer's role. He's not going to be a Friday starter anymore. So don't expect it to play out that way.
The 2-game experiment with him on the Friday night starters. Al, we appreciate the question. All right, Notre Dame 17-13, as we mentioned, 7-8 in the ACC. Wins over Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. They won the series against Louisville and Pittsburgh. Friday night is on the ACC network. Get your Spurtles now. Beef, what do we know about Notre Dame? They've got a new coach, and they're just kind of like Florida State, going through this new coaching staff, new players, transfers in and out. Seems like the same thing might be happening at Notre Dame.
It really does. Their new coach is Sean Stifler. If you know, he came from VCU. It's a little bit of a Clemson connection because Bradley LeCroy got the job at VCU after Stifler left for Notre Dame, which after Link Jarrett left Notre Dame for Florida State. So it's kind of that true
round
coaching
and round we go.
Yeah. So a little bit of Clemson connection there. But Friday night, Notre Dame, as Marty said, 17-13, 7-8 in the ACC, just a little bit ahead of Clemson in the ACC. Great wins against Louisville. Not sure how great they are this year, but again, like Florida State, anytime you can take a series against Louisville, you'll take it. Friday night, they throw out their junior right-hander Jackson Dennys. He's got 9 starts. He's 0-2, 2.59 ERA. 162 opponent batting average. One thing that will jump off the page is the pitching stats. Team ERA 4.59, but wait till we get to the offense because there's eye-popping stats there too. Saturday is sophomore New Jerseyite Jack Finley. 4 starts, 4-1, 2.82 ERA, 213 opponent's batting average. And finally, Sunday, we have Blake Healy, 8 starts. He's 1-1, 5.09 ERA. Opponents hitting 2.31. On the offensive side, there's going to be some familiar names from Notre Dame teams that have given Clemson fits in the past. You got graduate Carter Putz. He's leading the team in batting average, hitting 289 with 5 home runs. Also, graduate shortstop Zach Preisner hitting 274 with 4 home runs. Graduate Brooks Coatsy hitting 237. Graduate Jack Ziska, I had to throw him in there, Marty, because he's a Seton Hall Prep alum, hitting 146. And sophomore Jack Penny, who was a freshman last year, obviously, he's hitting 218, leading the team with 7 home runs. Their team batting average is 228. So this is not a very good offensive team here, obviously, but yet they still have those guys that have given Clemson fits. They're going to play small ball because their batting averages, I know that's not everything, but their batting averages is not good. 39-51 stolen bases, so they're going to run. I can't go against Clemson. I don't think it's a sweep again, though, because Notre Dame just has one of those teams that angers the crap out of you. I think Clemson goes 2 out of 3 in this one as well. I just think they keep hitting. If they keep hitting and putting pressure on Notre Dame's going to have a hard time scoring, even against this pitching staff.
238 team batting average. Here's my pitching coach advice: don't walk Bill, because don't walk 2 people, and all it takes is 1 hit. Right?
Still got some boppers though. It's very deceiving with those names: Preisner, Putz, Coatsy. Those are names have given Clemson fits the last 2-3 years.
Yeah. Astros had a pitcher, and I don't recall the name right now. He's been up and down. Brandon Belak. He's been up and down the last few years, and I kept saying, I know that guy from somewhere. I know that guy. I can't place him, but I know Notre Dame, right? I was like, oh, that's where I know him from.
Nico Cavadas is here in Greenville, so
fresh Clemson, yeah. All right, JP, what's your take on this series? You were right last week. Beef says same this week, 2-1. Clemson home this week. What's your take on this?
I think Clemson gets another series win here, 2 out of 3. Let's see what happens Friday night, though. This Denny's kid, man, he has been a victim of some terrible luck, mostly due to that lackluster offense. Beef was just talking about. The guy's made 9 starts. He's got a 2.59 ERA, and he is 0-2. He is really good, man. He's a really good pitcher. So runs might be at a premium Friday night, but if you can get to him and get into that bullpen, we'll see what happens Friday night. But I like the way Clemson matches up with these guys, but I've also felt that way the last couple of times Clemson's matched up with them and things have not gone Clemson's way. I remember I think it was the last time Notre Dame came in here and they swept Clemson, if I'm not mistaken. And
sure did.
That was one that I was not expecting. So we'll see how it goes. I like Clemson's chances, though. I think they have gotten this thing turned around, and I think they're going to start winning some ball games down the stretch, even though I know the schedule doesn't get any easier.
Exactly, yeah. Agreed with all of that. Okay, fellas. Friday night at 8 on the ACC Network, Saturday at 4, Sunday at 1. Those are on the ACC Network Extra. Of course, it's college baseball, so subject to and probably will be changed at some point over the weekend. The schedule always changes in college baseball. It is crazy. You can find Casey's work on the Message Board Geniuses podcast, Chop and Beef podcast, always funny over there. And occasionally Casey and I do Sluggo podcast. We did it last night. Lots of fun and laughs, talking about Casey's golf cart driving. Jason's work, of course, on allclemsontigers.com. Now, Jason, every week I ask you what you're working on at this point, but I'm going to take a while, I guess, and say spring game.
Yeah, I'll be working on something for the spring game tonight. No doubt. I'm going to try to put a list together of some recruits that are expected to visit. I've kind of been holding off on that because those visits tend to be fluid. I already got one guy that's dropped off I thought was going to be there. But one more thing to add about that baseball series this weekend, Jack Leggett's number is going to be retired Saturday.
Good point.
I think there are still some standing room only tickets available, so that's going to be a packed house after the spring game Saturday. Should be a good atmosphere there. It might be the most packed it's been all season.
Good point. I absolutely should have mentioned that, and I forgot all about it. Beef, any final thoughts?
No, but it's a long time coming for Jack. He deserves it to be in that retired uniform class, and so glad he's finally getting his due.
Good deal. For Casey Cregan, Jason Priester of all ClemsonTigers.com, I'm Marty Coleman. Thanks for watching. We'll probably talk to you next Thursday, so tune in then. Thanks, fellas. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it.